heard my 8-year-old daughter crying in her bedroom on a Tuesday night. Not the usual "I don't want to go to bed" crying. This was different, deeper, the kind of sobbing that makes your chest tighten as a parent. I knocked softly. "Sweetie, what's wrong?" Emma looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. My son Jake sat next to her on the bed, his arm around his twin sister's shoulders. He looked angry, protective. "Daddy," Emma's voice cracked. "Is it true? Is it true that Mommy left because you're worthless?" The words hit me like a freight train. My vision blurred for a second. "What? Who told you that?" "Grandpa," Jake said, his jaw clenched. "At dinner tonight. He said Mommy didn't want to be with us anymore because you weren't good enough, that you drove her away. My own father, my own blood." I felt my hands start to shake. 3 years ago, my wife Sarah walked out on us without warning. No note, no explanation. Just packed her things while I was at work and disappeared. I came home to 2 5-year-old children asking where Mommy was, and I had no answer. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I learned to braid hair from YouTube videos. I became the class parent, the bedtime story reader, the nightmare chaser, the lunch packer. I became everything they needed, and now my father was poisoning them against me. "Listen to me," I said, kneeling in front of them, taking both their hands. "That's not true. None of it. Mommy left because she had her own problems. It had nothing to do with me and definitely nothing to do with you two. I love you more than anything in this world. Do you understand?" Emma nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. The seed had been planted, and seeds like that grow in the dark. I tucked them in, kissed their foreheads, and walked to my bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed in the darkness, my phone in my hands. I should call him, scream at him, demand an explanation, but something stopped me. Something told me this was bigger than one cruel comment. Over the next week, I noticed changes. Small things. Jake asking me, "Dad, did you ever hurt Mom?" Emma flinching when I raised my voice slightly to call them for dinner. They were watching me differently, studying me, looking for evidence of the monster their grandfather was painting me to be. I was losing them, and I didn't know how to fight an enemy who had their trust. Then my sister Linda called. "We need to talk, in person, now." We met at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. Linda looked furious. Her hands were shaking as she gripped her latte. "I heard him," she said without preamble. "I was picking up some boxes from Dad's garage, and I heard him talking to Emma and Jake in the living room. He's been doing this for months, apparently, every time he babysits. He's been systematically destroying your reputation." "But why?" My voice came out strangled. "Why would he do this?" Linda leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Because he never got over Sarah. You know how he always took her side during arguments? How he'd invite her to family dinners and treat her like gold while barely acknowledging you? He's still in contact with her. Has been this whole time." The coffee shop seemed to tilt. "What? He's been giving her money, meeting her for lunch. And here's the worst part." Linda pulled out her phone, showing me bank statements she'd found. "He's been paying her $500 a month, and in exchange, she's agreed to let him have special time with the kids. He's trying to turn them against you so he can petition for grandparents' rights. He wants custody." I stared at the numbers on the screen. My father, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who came to exactly 3 of my baseball games growing up and spent the whole time critiquing my stance, who told me I'd never amount to anything when I chose teaching over law school, who looked at me with disappointment my entire life. Of course he was doing this. I was never good enough for him. And now he was making sure my own children believed it too. "What do I do?" I whispered. Linda's eyes were hard. "We get proof, real proof, and we burn his plan to the ground." The next week I planned carefully. I told my father I wanted to have a family dinner, a reconciliation. I'd been too proud, I said, too stubborn. I wanted the kids to have their grandfather in their lives properly. He agreed immediately, his voice warm and loving over the phone. It made my skin crawl. I bought a small recording device, the kind detectives use. I practiced keeping my voice steady, my face neutral. Linda would be there. So would my Uncle Robert, my father's younger brother, who'd always been the reasonable one in the family. The night of the dinner, I dressed the twins in their nice clothes. "We're going to Grandpa's," I told them. They exchanged glances. Emma looked nervous. My father's house smelled like roast chicken and lies. He greeted the children with huge hugs, completely ignoring me. Uncle Robert was already there, looking confused about why he'd been invited. Linda arrived last, her face a mask of calm. We sat down to dinner. My father held court at the head of the table, telling stories, making the kids laugh. He was charming, warm, the perfect grandfather. If you didn't know what he was doing in the shadows, you'd think he was Father of the Year. I waited until dessert. Then I leaned back in my chair and said casually, "Dad, can I ask you something? Why do you think Sarah left?" The table went quiet. My father's smile didn't waver. "Well, son, that's a complicated question. Humor me." He sighed, setting down his fork. "If we're being honest, marriage takes work, commitment. Sarah was a wonderful woman, beautiful, intelligent, kind. She deserved someone who could provide for her. Someone stable, someone—" He paused delicately. "Someone more ambitious. You're saying she left because I wasn't good enough? I'm saying marriage requires two people pulling in the same direction. You were always so caught up in your little teaching job, your hobbies, your friends. Sarah needed more. She deserved more." Emma was staring at her plate. Jake's hands were clenched into fists. "That's interesting," I said softly, "because you've been telling my children that their mother left because I was worthless, that I drove her away, that I'm a failure as a husband and a father." My father's face went pale. "I never—" "You did," Linda cut in, her voice like ice. "I heard you. Multiple times." "Dad," Uncle Robert said slowly, staring at his brother. "What the hell is going on?" My father stood up abruptly. "This is ridiculous. I've been helping this family. Someone had to tell these children the truth. Someone had to protect them from his incompetence." "Protect them?" I stood too, my voice rising. "You've been taking money out of your retirement account to pay my ex-wife, $500 a month. For what? So she'd let you play Grandfather of the Year while you destroyed me. That's not— How did you—" He was stammering now. I pulled out my phone, pressed play on the recording from 3 days ago that Linda had made during her last visit. My father's voice filled the dining room. "Your daddy was never good enough for your mama. That's why she left. He couldn't take care of her properly, couldn't make her happy. And now he's struggling to take care of you too." Emma started crying. Jake pushed back from the table and ran to me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "I've been recording everything," I said quietly. "Every lie, every manipulation, every dollar you've paid Sarah to stay in your life. I have bank statements, text messages, witnesses, and I'm going to use all of it." My father sank back into his chair. For the first time in my life, I saw him look small. "Why?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Why would you do this to me, to your own son?" He looked up at me and I saw something ugly in his eyes. Resentment, old, deep resentment that had been there my whole life. "Because you were never supposed to be the one who succeeded. You were never supposed to be the good parent. That was supposed to be me, and Sarah, she understood. He saw what I saw, that you were just ordinary, mediocre, nothing special. Get out," Uncle Robert said, standing up. "Kids, come with me. You don't need to hear this." But Emma pulled away from him. She walked around the table to my father, looked up at him with those 8-year-old eyes that had seen too much. "You're a liar," she said simply. "My daddy is the best person I know, and you're just mean." Jake joined her. "We don't want to see you anymore, Grandpa." We left, all of us. Uncle Robert drove the kids home while Linda and I sat in my car outside my father's house, both of us shaking. "What now?" she asked. "Now we make sure he never gets near them again." The legal process took 6 weeks. My lawyer was a bulldog of a woman named Patricia, who'd been through a similar situation with her own father-in-law. She took one look at my evidence and smiled. "This is the easiest case I've had all year." Sarah showed up to one of the hearings. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. She looked older, tired. When she took the stand, she didn't look at me. "Ms. Chen," Patricia said gently, "can you tell the court about your arrangement with the defendant's father?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "He contacted me 6 months after I left, said he wanted to stay in the children's lives, that he could help me financially if I helped him." "Helped him how?" "He wanted me to agree to let him have time with Emma and Jake, unsupervised time. He said he could be a better influence than their father, that he could raise them properly." She finally looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I needed the money and I was angry. At everything. At myself for leaving. At you for being such a good father when I couldn't handle being a mother." He made it seem like he was helping. "And did he ask you to say anything specific about the children's father?" "He told me to confirm to anyone who asked that the marriage ended because of his failures." that he was neglectful, absent, that I had no choice but to leave. Her voice cracked. None of it was true. He was a wonderful husband. I was the one who failed. I was the one who couldn't handle the pressure of being a parent. I left because I was broken, not because he was. The judge granted my petition immediately. Restraining order. Supervised visits only if I chose to allow them, which I didn't. My father tried to appeal. It was denied. 6 months later, my father sent a letter. Long, rambling, full of justifications and half apologies. He was sorry I was hurt, but I had to understand his perspective. He'd only wanted what was best for the children. He'd always loved me, in his way. I burned it without finishing it. Emma and Jake started therapy. A wonderful child psychologist named Dr. Martinez who specialized in parental alienation. It took months, but slowly, I watched them come back to me. The doubt faded from their eyes. They started laughing again, really laughing. One night, Jake crawled into bed next to me during a thunderstorm. "Dad," he whispered. "Yeah, buddy. I'm sorry I believed Grandpa. Even for a little bit." I pulled him close. "You have nothing to be sorry for. You're a kid. Adults are supposed to protect you, not lie to you. That's on him, not on you. Are you going to forgive him? Ever?" I thought about that for a long time. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday, but not today, and maybe not for a very long time. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we're supposed to trust. And that's not okay. It's never okay. I love you, Dad. I love you too, buddy. More than you'll ever know." Emma graduated from elementary school last month. Jake made the honor roll. They call me their hero, their best friend, the person they trust most in the world. Some nights I still lie awake thinking about my father's words. Worthless. Mediocre. Nothing special. But then I wake up to 2 kids fighting over who gets to make me breakfast in bed. I watch them perform in school plays and score goals in soccer games. I read bedtime stories and chase away monsters under the bed. I show up, every single day, without fail, and I realize I'm not worthless. I never was. I was just measured against the wrong standards by someone who never learned how to love without conditions. The truth always comes out. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it requires courage. Sometimes it means standing up to the people you're supposed to respect. But it always comes out. And love, real, unconditional, showing up everyday love, survives any lie someone tries to tell about it. My children know that now, and that's all that matters. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt like you weren't enough, if you've ever had to fight for the truth when everyone else was lying, remember this. You are seen, you are valued, your love matters. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it today, because sometimes the most radical thing we can do is simply tell the truth and refuse to be broken by someone else's cruelty. You are enough. You always were.